The curtain is slowly closing on an incredible chapter in tennis history. Rafael Nadal, the king of clay, the gladiator of the courts, and a symbol of resilience, is embarking on the final stages of his legendary career. As the tennis world prepares for his farewell, let's explore the milestones, the emotions, and the legacy of a true champion. This is Nadal's final act.
Sinceramente han sido 20 años de carrera profesional en los que me habéis llevado en volandas siempre, ¿no? En los momentos buenos me ayudabais a ganar el siguiente punto y en los momentos malos, sin ninguna duda, pues me empujabais a seguir peleando, ¿no? Y he podido vivir con todos vosotros, evidentemente. Quiero generalizar a toda España, pero también al mundo en general, ¿no? Sinceramente me he sentido un súper afortunado por recibir tanto y tanto cariño alrededor de todo el mundo y especialmente aquí en España. Quiero continuar en este día de hoy pues felicitando al equipo de Holanda. Congratulations to all of you. Amazing play. Y quiero agradecer a todo el equipo español que está aquí, no solo todos vosotros que me habéis permitido poder vivir la ilusión que tenía de jugar otra vez la Copa Davis. Es evidente que no ha salido como todos hubiéramos querido. Me hubiera encantado poder ayudar más de que lo he hecho, pero sinceramente he dado lo que tenía y os quiero agradecer de corazón haberme dado la oportunidad de estar de pasar estos últimos días como profesional en equipo, ¿no? Muchos de los momentos más emocionantes de mi carrera los he vivido con muchos de los que estáis aquí. Haber formado parte del equipo español ha sido un increíble privilegio y honor, la verdad. Lo hemos disfrutado, hemos conseguido muchas cosas muy bonitas juntas y ahora pues os toca a vosotros seguir viviéndolas, que estoy seguro que así será. O sea que mil gracias a todos, de verdad. Bueno, la realidad es que uno nunca quiere llegar a este momento, ¿no? Yo sinceramente no estoy cansado de jugar a tenis, simplemente el cuerpo ha llegado a un momento dado que no quiere jugar más a tenis, con lo cual hay que aceptar la situación. Yo sinceramente me siento un súper privilegiado, ¿no? He podido hacer de uno de mis hobbies mi carrera y aparte muchísimo más larga de lo que jamás hubiera imaginado, ¿no? Solo puedo dar gracias a la vida y gracias a toda esta gente que tengo aquí detrás. Algunos no están, muchos sí. Me habéis familia, especialmente, sin ninguna duda, ¿no? Equipo, amigos, no es un día ahora mismo para personalizar porque realmente es difícil y me voy a olvidar de gente, ¿no? Pero habéis sido una parte inolvidable de mi día a día durante todos estos años, ¿no? Soy una persona que cree en la continuidad, en mantener a las personas que realmente te quieren y que realmente hacen que tu vida sea mejor cerca de ti. Es lo que he intentado durante toda mi vida, mantener el equipo, mantener a la familia cercana, hacer pocos cambios en mi equipo, y eso me ha llevado a no tener una relación personal con todos vosotros, una relación profesional, sino realmente tener una relación personal que va muchísimo más allá de nuestra carrera profesional que hemos vivido juntos. Por todo ello, mil gracias de verdad. Sin vosotros nada de todo esto hubiera sido posible, y lo digo de corazón. También sé que es no me quiero alargar más de la cuenta, la verdad, pero bueno, en ese sentido, pues también quiero agradecer a todos los que en algún momento han estado a mi lado, ¿no? A nivel de compañías, a nivel de ayudas, a la Federación Española, a todos los sponsors que me han acompañado en el camino. Algunos siguen y han durado toda la vida, otros se pasaron por algún momento de mi vida. Sin excepción, increíblemente agradecido por la confianza, por apoyarme de manera incondicional. Ha significado mucho para mí tener el apoyo de compañías muy importantes, y encima que hayan creído en mí durante todos estos años, me han hecho sentir seguro y sentirme realmente bien siendo parte de la familia de todos vosotros. Muchísimas gracias a todos. No me quiero olvidar de los medios de comunicación, sinceramente. Habéis estado conmigo, acompañándome, contando lo que ha sido mi historia en muchos lugares del mundo, algunos viajando más, otros viajando menos, pero quiero agradeceros de la manera que me habéis tratado la gran mayoría de las veces, ¿no? A veces me habré equivocado en cosas, habré jugado mal muchos partidos, otros bien, pero me he sentido muy bien tratado por vosotros, y lo más importante para mí es que creo que ha habido siempre con todos vosotros una relación de respeto, y aunque vosotros hagáis vuestro trabajo, yo el mío, aprecio muchísimo de la manera que me habéis tratado y que me habéis podido contar al mundo la historia que he tenido, que ha sido para mí una historia preciosa, con momentos que han sido malos, pero que la realidad es que la gran mayoría han sido realmente buenos y inolvidables, ¿no? O sea que muchísimas gracias por haber sido parte de mi historia también. A toda la industria del deporte, la ATP, la ITF, todos los que, bueno, he dicho antes, ¿no? Pero la Real Federación Española de Tenis, todos, Federación Balear, todos los que hacéis que este deporte siga estando en la cima del mundo. Somos un deporte global, hacéis que nuestro deporte siga moviendo a masas, y os animo a continuar con el camino que lleváis tanto tiempo ejerciendo. Yo soy un súper apasionado del deporte en general. Me voy a retirar del tenis profesional, pero sigo estando aquí. Cualquier cosa, espero seguir siendo un buen embajador para el tenis. Es lo que... Es lo que he intentado de verdad toda mi vida, ¿no? He intentado esforzarme cada día para ser mejor, para cumplir objetivos, pero he intentado hacerlo creo que desde el respeto, desde la humildad, desde el valorar todas las cosas buenas que me han ido pasando. Yo creo que de alguna manera he intentado algo que para mí es lo más importante en este mundo, ¿no? Que es ser buena persona. Espero que así lo hayáis percibido. Percibido también. Sinceramente me voy de este mundo del tenis profesional habiendo dejado habiendo encontrado muchísimos amigos en el camino, ¿no? Tengo tanta gente a la que agradecería y que he pasado por torneos gente que ha trabajado conmigo en la ATP. Es difícil acordarme de todos, pero realmente creo que me voy con la tranquilidad de que de alguna manera he dejado un legado como realmente lo siento así, no solo deportivo, también personal, porque entiendo que el cariño que recibo alrededor del mundo, si fuera solo por lo que hago dentro de la pista, no sería el mismo. O sea que de verdad que muchísimas gracias por todo. Me quiero despedir diciendo las últimas palabras, agradeciendo a mi familia que realmente no me ha fallado nunca, ¿no? Han estado conmigo en los momentos que las cosas parecían imposibles, en los momentos que las cosas iban bien, me han mantenido con los pies en el suelo, no me han dejado levantarme prácticamente nunca y eso creo que hace que el momento de hoy y lo que vaya a pasar en el futuro sea realmente más fácil de llevar, ¿no? Sé que viene un proceso, no sé si difícil, pero todos los cambios en esta vida llevan un proceso de adaptación y estoy tranquilo porque realmente creo que he recibido una educación que me permite pues, encarar lo que viene con tranquilidad, con la satisfacción personal de haber hecho todo lo que he podido hasta el final y sinceramente estoy tranquilo porque tengo a una gran familia alrededor que me ayuda en todo lo que necesito diariamente. Muchísimas gracias.
Rafa, en esta increíble carrera que nos has regalado, hoy cierras un círculo que comenzó de alguna manera en la Copa Davis de 2004. Tu compromiso defendiendo siempre los colores de España, tanto en la Copa Davis como en los Juegos Olímpicos, nos ha llegado al corazón. Y en este reconocimiento de tu increíble carrera, hoy van a entregarte un premio muy especial, dos personalidades del mundo del deporte, the President of the ITF, Mr. David Haggerty, and the President of the Real Federación Española de Tenis, Mr. Miguel Díaz Román, would like to express their thanks to you for everything you have done for tennis, for the development of the sport around the world.
That was before he heard the first few bars of Marca Real as he stood alongside his Spanish teammates on the court at the Martin Carpena Arena. Once those notes rang out, his 1,000-mile stare, fixed on the upper tiers of the packed stands, was unwavering. But his eyes welled with tears. The Nadal retirement narrative was inescapable around this Davis Cup, despite his best efforts to make it about the team and not his own farewell. "I'm not here to retire. I'm here to help the team win," he said Monday. But outside, there was a vast banner running around the nearby athletic stadium reading, "Gracias, Rafa." The ticket prices had soared for this quarterfinal against the Netherlands. Everyone who has watched Nadal since his breakthrough over 2 decades ago wanted to catch one last glimpse of the man who is arguably Spain's greatest athlete ever. Roger Federer penned a 585-word tribute to Nadal, the man he calls his old friend. Ever since Nadal announced on October 10th this was going to be his final act in tennis, it was always going to be about him. Whether he liked it or not, what followed was a 6-4 defeat to Botic van de Zandschulp. There were reminders of the old Nadal, the one who won 22 Grand Slams, ruled Roland Garros, and established himself as one of the all-time greats. There were the fist pumps and shouts of "Vamos" after key points. Even in the final notes of his career, only he could conduct a crowd quite like he does. But then there was the reality of Nadal at 38 years old. The one who said his body could no longer match his competitive desires. And though he still performed with courage, his feet just couldn't match his mind on Tuesday. At the end of the day, Spain was ousted from the Davis Cup after a loss in doubles as well, and Nadal's storied career came to a close. I want to be remembered as a good person and a kid who followed their dreams and achieved more than I ever believed possible, he said. Nadal's career began in Manacor, Spain, more than 500 miles from the Davis Cup site in Malaga. It was there, under the guidance and tough coaching of his uncle Tony Nadal, where his talent quickly developed. He was a walking conundrum for opponents, a right-handed player who played with his left hand, and his unique ability to put topspin on the ball only added to his reputation. He turned pro at 14 in 2001, won his first ATP match a year later at 15, and in April 2003 became the first 16-year-old to break into the top 100 on the men's side, since Michael Chong managed the same feat in 1988. Nadal's mentor has always been 1998 French Open champion Carlos Moya, who has remained one of his closest confidants. And in their first official matchup at a tournament, in 2003 at the Hamburg Masters, a 16-year-old Nadal beat world number 4 Moya. He was very shy and nervous and said, "I'm sorry I won." And I said, "No worries." Moya later said of that defeat to Nadal, "I understood that it was the first of many times that he would win, and I knew he would go on to be a great player." In 2004, he faced world number 1 Federer for the first time, with Nadal winning in an upset at the Miami Open 6-3, 6-3. A year later, they met again on the same court. Federer was still a fiery player, a little more brash than the calm, magnanimous figure he would become. He slammed his racket against the court during the match and later said, "I'll see very much from him in the future." So for me, this was a big match because I know what a great player he will be one day. At that stage, Nadal dressed in garish colors, sometimes sleeveless tops, three-quarter-length shorts, bandana sweeping back his wild, long hair. But he channeled his intensity through fist pumps and shouts of "vamos," rather than railing at the umpire or smashing rackets. Even to this day, he has never smashed a racket on the court. "My family wouldn't have allowed me to break a racket," he said in a 2020 interview. "For me, to break a racket, it would be to lose control of my emotions." Roland Garros will always be regarded as Nadal's second home. Away from Mallorca, it's in Paris where he's most beloved. His debut there came in May 2005, and it was 29-year-old Lars Bergsmuller who was Nadal's first victim. Everyone was talking about him, Bergsmuller said in 2015. He had good form. He was on the way up. Everyone knew that he would be very, very good. 4 rounds later, on his 19th birthday, Nadal faced number 1 seed Federer in the semifinal. Federer was the darling of the crowd, but it was Nadal who came through and won. "We won't see anyone like him for at least another 5 years, Federer said afterward. And to come in here and keep it going in Roland Garros is also very special. A couple of days later, having defeated Mariano Puerta in the final, Nadal held La Coupe de Mousquetaires for the first time. His back was caked in clay. That celebration of sheer astonishment as he fell to the ground, arms and legs outstretched, was to become a familiar sight. And for the first time, his emotions broke through. "I thought I was going to lose after he won the first set. I thought he could win," Nadal said afterward. "But I fight for every ball. When I have problems in the match, I fight every game. These moments are very strong. And when you reach your goal, it's an extraordinary moment. For the first time, I cried after winning a match. It has never happened to me before. Since 2021, there has been a statue honoring Nadal on site, and the vast steel structure outside Court Philippe Chatrier is a permanent reminder of the mark he has left. When it was unveiled, the man himself was still sweating on the clay just 100 or so meters from that immortalization of him. And he'd go on to win another title there in 2022. It'll be on that patch of clay where his legacy shines brightest. 14 of his 22 Grand Slam titles came there. He leaves the French Open with an astonishing 96.5% winning record. While Nadal's record on clay will surely be unsurpassed, there are other titles in his remarkable career that anchor him as one of tennis's greats. There's the 2008 Wimbledon final triumph over Federer, widely regarded as one of the finest matches the sport has ever seen. Then there's the 13-year gap between his two Australian Open titles, winning his second in 2022 just a couple of months after he contemplated retiring. There are also 4 U.S. Open titles to boot, 2 Olympic gold medals, 1 in singles, 1 in doubles, and his 4 Davis Cup titles. It's an incredible haul. And then there was his rivalry with Federer. The two met a total of 40 times, with Nadal winning 24 of them and holding a 14-10 record in finals. But the two became close friends as well. There's an iconic photo of them holding hands at the 2022 Laver Cup, crying as Federer drew the curtain on his career.
Give me the opportunity to live unforgettable experiences because of tennis. No? So I just want to be remembered as a good person and a kid that followed their dreams and achieved more than what I ever dreamed.
Rafa, has compartido pistas con centenares de jugadores que te admiran, que te quieren, que te van a recordar siempre. No pueden estar todos aquí, pero en nombre de todos ellos vamos a llamar a una persona que nos gustaría que te dijera unas palabras en representación de todo el mundo del tenis. No va a estar aquí como tu capitán, va a estar aquí como tu amigo, como un jugador y como una gran persona, David Ferrer.
Buenas noches, Rafa. Bueno, puedo hablar como en nombre del tenis español y bueno, me ha tocado del tenis mundial. Ya sabes muy bien lo que ha significado para el mundo de este deporte. No me quiero olvidar de lo que es la gente que has tenido alrededor desde que empezaste a jugar a tenis, que muchos de ellos están aquí, que han hecho posible que tú seas lo que has sido a nivel...
I have it at home framed, Federer said in June, and when I pass by it, it always catches my attention because it reflects our camaraderie, our friendship, and also the rivalry, all in one single image. That's what this photo stands for to me. It was a great moment, short. Take his hand for a second and show him my gratitude through that touch. Federer, 5 years older, was always the one for Nadal to chase. Novak Djokovic, who would go on to set the overall Grand Slam record and become the other member of the Big Three, started his career a little later. He chased a pair of them. For me, Federer was always the guy to beat, Nadal said in 2022. So, at some point, we were probably the biggest rivals, I think always in a very good way. We respect a lot each other, families, teams. I mean, we never had big issues, no? On the court, we have opposite styles, and that's what probably makes our matches and our rivalry one of the biggest and most interesting. Their contrasting tennis style was also matched by their fashion. Ahead of the 2008 Wimbledon final, Federer wore a bespoke cardigan, embroidered with RF logos, and an immaculate polo shirt. Nadal was in a sleeveless white tank top, with shorts below his knees, but Nadal's style changed as he got older, and by 2010 he'd taken on t-shirts, and his shorts were more typical in length. I think it's a pity he gave up his pirate pants and the sleeveless shirts, Federer said in 2010. I thought our styles were colliding even more then. I kind of miss it. In 2010, Nadal became the youngest man, at 25, to win a career Grand Slam, each of the 4 titles, when he won the U.S. Open, beating Djokovic in 4 sets. But behind closed doors, Nadal's body was starting to hamper him, and so began a Sisyphean battle between body and mind, the great Spaniard forever fighting back from the brink of retirement to keep himself going for one more slam. Nadal's Achilles heel was his left foot. Even back in his capri pants days, the left foot was troublesome. He suffered a stress fracture in 2004, and had issues with it again at the end of the 2005 season and the start of 2006. There were rumors at the time that the injury was chronic. Then in 2009, he revealed he was having issues with tendinitis in both knees, and that would end up plaguing his next 3 years. He'd continue winning, but all the time, he was battling increased pain. In his 2011 autobiography, Rafa, My Story, he talked about the need to treat every match as his last. We are enormously privileged and fortunate, but the price of our privilege and good fortune is that our careers end at an unnaturally young age. And worse, that injury can cut your progress short at any time, and from one week to the next you might be forced into premature retirement. You must enjoy what you do, and the chances that come your way once won't necessarily come your way again. So you squeeze the most out of every opportunity, every single time, as if it were your last. It's tough to pinpoint the exact moment when Nadal's struggles increased to the point of being near retirement. But at the beginning of 2022, Nadal had been out of action since the previous May. Honestly, I have been suffering much more than I should with my foot for a year, and I need to take some time to find a solution to this problem, or at least improve it to continue to have options for the next few years, Nadal said in August 2021. A month later, there were further retirement-related alarm bells when he said, "I don't know when I will play again. There are always things that I can't control 100%, but inside my head, I'm clear on what my objectives are and I trust that things will follow a positive course." But, seemingly against the odds, Nadal made it to the Australian Open in 2022 and started winning. There it felt as though Nadal was playing out his encore, trying to play with more freedom, less stress, and an appreciation of what he had achieved. He appeared to be trying to see how much fun he could eke out in whatever was left in his career. At the beginning of the tournament, Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal were all tied at 20 Grand Slams apiece. By the end of that fortnight in Melbourne, and after a triumph over Daniil Medvedev in the final, Nadal had 21 slams. 4 months later, he'd have number 22, his last and final slam. After the 2022 French Open final win over Casper Ruud, Nadal stood facing his adoring fans in the heart of court Philippe Chatrier. He'd just become the oldest men's French Open champion at 36. The renditions of Bella Ciao and Ole Ole had subsided, and his adoring fans waited to hear from the man. Rumors were doing the rounds that Nadal was going to retire. It was like the whole place collectively held its breath. But he wasn't ready. "I don't know what is going on in the future. I will keep fighting to keep going," he said, to exhales and cheers. But it was the last time we saw him in his prime at Roland Garros. A couple of hours after that final, he revealed that for the past fortnight, he hadn't been able to feel his left foot. Every morning before practice or playing, he numbed the injury by injecting the nerve to allow him to play. The injury caused him to be in pain when walking, let alone playing. After Roland Garros, Nadal underwent a radio-frequency nerve ablation, which targeted the specific nerve leading to the painful area of his foot that helped his foot, but Nadal became mired in an abdominal and hip injury that sidelined him for most of 2023. In May 2023, he called a news conference at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor and spoke about his plans for the future. "Even though your head wants to keep going, your body says this is as far as it goes. You never know how things will turn out, but I intend that 2024 will be my last year. I don't deserve to end my career like this." In a press conference, Nadal has already put into place robust retirement plans. His eponymous tennis academies are established in Mexico, Greece, Kuwait, Hong Kong, and Egypt. Current players are benefiting from it. Felix Auger-Aliassime, Ruud, Lorenzo Sonego, and Emil Rusevuri all have trained there. He owns restaurants in Madrid, Ibiza, and Valencia, and has interests in a real estate business, hotels, and a renewable energy business. In 2013, he launched his own clothing line with Nike, with bull horns to symbolize his Raging Bull nickname. Then there's his legendary love of Real Madrid. Rumors have long circulated that he may become president of the football club after his retirement from tennis, with a source telling ESPN that there is an expectation that this will be true, though the timetable is unknown. His name will continue beyond the sport, but the Nadal effect has already helped usher through the next generation of stars such as Carlos Alcaraz. "Rafa was my hero when I was young and started playing tennis," Alcaraz said in 2023. "Even those he defeated on the court hold that memory close. I can hopefully one day tell my grandkids that I played Rafa on Chatrier in the final, and they will probably say, 'Wow, did you?'" Ruud said after losing in straight sets in the 2022 French Open final. "I will say yes." Nadal's final singles match at Roland Garros was against Alexander Zverev last May. He came into the match in patchy form, 5-3 on clay, and had already been given send-offs in Barcelona and Madrid as part of his expected farewell. Over 3 hours and 5 minutes, he lost his Zverev in straight sets. "If it's the last time that I played here, I'm at peace with myself," Nadal said. "I tried everything to be ready for this tournament for almost 20 years. And today, in the last 2 years, I've been working and going through probably the toughest process in my tennis career with the dream to come back here. At least I did that. I mean, I lost, but that's part of the business." Nadal was in both the singles and doubles draw for the Olympics. He competed alongside Alcaraz in the doubles, reaching the quarterfinals, and lost to Djokovic in the second round in singles. Back in 2006, "I don't think we would have thought we would be playing against each other on the same court at the Olympics," Djokovic said. "So I think we will appreciate this match very much. I think our rivalry, and I think for the sport itself, Djokovic remains the last of the big three still going, and now sits out ahead of the two with 24 Grand Slams, for ahead of Federer, 2 up on Nadal. Djokovic is railing against the dying light, trying to add further titles to his remarkable haul, but he won't have the pull of a Nadal or Federer lying in wait. When Nadal announced that he's going to have his last season of his career, I felt part of me is leaving with him too, if you know what I mean," Djokovic said last November. "I feel that he was one of the most impactful people that I have ever had in my career, the growth of my career, and me as a player. A great motivational factor for me is to keep playing and keep competing and keep pushing each other, who's going to achieve more, who's going to do better." I felt also a little bit emotional about what he was saying. He later added, "He's a big warrior. He's somebody that never gives up. With all the injuries that he had, he keeps going. That's something that you have to respect and admire about him and his spirit." It was standing room only for the Spanish team's news conference on Monday in Malaga. 6 members of the team sat at the table, but the focus was solely on Nadal. He balanced all the questions about his retirement and what it means to him, but frequently referenced the importance of the team over the week. All the while Alcaraz, Roberto Bautista Agut, Marcel Granollers, Pedro Martinez Portero, and team captain David Ferrer sat there and listened. "He's super special," Ferrer said, on one rare occasion when he had a question directed at him. "I had to suffer against him many times on the court. Now I have to suffer from him off the court. We are lucky to be by his side today." Ultimately, Nadal said he could have played on for another year. But his body and mind both told him it was time to finish things off in Spain. "It's about the things that I went through make me feel that I cannot be competitive enough, and I am not able to enjoy the way that I need to be competitive at the highest level. So at the end of the day, I ask myself I can hold for one more year, but why? To say goodbye in every single tournament? I don't have the ego to need that. For me, today, it doesn't make sense to keep going knowing that I don't have the real chance to be competitive the way that I like to be competitive, because my body is not able to give me the possibility to do that very often." But he said he headed off into the sunset with regrets. There were none of those empty cliches from Nadal. He was brutally honest about what he felt were his own failings. "I'm not the kind of guy that I will say, no, I will not change things because for me it looks arrogant. Of course I will change things. But one thing has been so important for me, because I am going to leave this professional tour with the calm and with the personal satisfaction that I give my best almost in every single moment." In the Yendi, Ferrer opted to start Nadal in singles on Tuesday. He wanted Nadal to whip up the crowd into a red and yellow frenzy of Spanish tennis euphoria. But though Nadal started well against Van de Zandschulp, it slipped away. The 11,300 capacity crowd chanted "Si pueda." "Yes, you can," willing Nadal one more time. He had his mother Anna Marie, wife Mary, sister Maribel, and son Rafa Jr. all there in the Malaga crowd. Watching Nadal one last time blended all those memories. The young Capri short-wearing Nadal, combined with the man, now a father, husband, and legend in the sport. But this time, covered in sweat, trying for one last miracle, he couldn't quite manifest that magic. His face at times looked pained, a man exasperated at not quite managing one final hurrah. "I didn't have the ability to read the game quickly enough to feel in control," he said. "The points went by very quickly, and there was no time to think. When you've spent so much time out of competition, everything is decided by small details. I'm not in the same automatisms as players who are on the circuit. I didn't have the mental agility to make decisions without thinking." Afterward, he gave a brutal, honest assessment of his own performance, saying that even if Spain advanced, he wouldn't pick himself to play. I mean, if I would be the captain, probably I would change. I don't put myself the next day. By the way, it's in some ways good. Maybe if that was my last match. I lost my first match in the Davis Cup, and I lost my last one. So we close the circle. In an individual sport, he has never made it about himself. And even in Malaga, from the bench after his match was over, Nadal's competitive spirit was unquenchable. He jumped up between points, living and breathing every forehand, winner and error. He has never set lofty goals or made bold predictions around his own ability. It all came back to a simple but beautifully complicated emotion, the love of competing. "I am not worried about the next chapter in my life," Nadal said. "I have always been happy without tennis. But at the same time, I need to accept the challenge of an important change in my life. You need to accept the process and accept things will be different. I will miss the feeling of competition and seeing the fans out there, the atmosphere when you play big matches. It is about the adrenaline you feel before, at the end, and during the match. I am probably going to have things in life that make me happier or give me different, more important feelings, but that feeling of adrenaline is difficult to find outside of professional sport, I think. And so, as we witness the beginning of Rafael Nadal's farewell, we are reminded of the unmatched passion, grit, and brilliance he brought to the game. This isn't just the end of a career. It's the celebration of a legacy that will echo through tennis history forever. If you've been inspired by Nadal's journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories about the legends of tennis. Vamos, Rafa!